The ADABAL-A is a book that is traditionally attributed to the writings of Morihaus, man bull, breath of Kine, king of Minotaurs and lover of Saint Alessia. It stands as an amazing primary source regarding the events of the Alessian revolt, ancient Cyrodiil, and Ayleid Empire. It starts with Pelinals Death, and in the blood-floored throne room of white gold, the severed head of Pelinal Whitestrake spoke to the winged bull, Morihaus, demigod lover of Ayleid, saying, "Our enemies have undone me and spread my body into hiding. In mockery of divine purpose, the Ayleids cut me into eighths, for they are obsessed with this number." And Morihaus, confused, snorted through his ring, saying, "Your crusades went beyond her counsel, Whitestrake, but I am a bull, and therefore reckless in my wit. I think I would go and gore our prisoners, if you had left any alive. You are blood made glorious, uncle, and will come again, as fox animal or light. Cyrodiil is still ours." Then Pelinal spoke again for the last time. "Beware, Morihaus, beware. With the foresight of death I know now that my foe yet lives, bitter knowledge to take to my grave. Better that I had died believing myself the victor. Although cast beyond the doors of night, he will return. Be vigilant. I can no longer shield the host of men from Umariel's retribution." This account speaks to the death of the divine crusader after storming the Ayleid White Gold Tower during the Alessian revolt. The Umariel that he speaks of is the Ayleid demigod, Umariel the Unfeathered. Umariel tricked Pelinal into storming the White Gold Tower by himself, where he was outnumbered by Ayleid's sorcerer kings. Although seemingly killing Umariel in this conflict, Pelinal would fall to the rest of his enemies, leaving only his head as stated earlier. Although Umariel had been physically killed, his spirit remained alive and would return during the Third Era. This is the warning that Pelinal speaks about. Regarding Pelinal being ripped into 8 pieces, 8 is a number which has vast significance within Tamriel. There were 8 divines, 8 regions on the continent of Tamriel, 8 spokes on the wheel that is the Mundus. When Morihaus refers to Pelinal as set to come again as fox animal or light, he seems to refer to Pelinal as a Cyrodiil, one who will return as light. The many ghost forms of other Cyrodiils, notably Wolfhearth, or Pelinal in the Third Era. Or as a fox, like the hypothesized Cyrodiil of Hans the Fox, of which not much is known. To continue, Alessia's youth during the slave years. Alessia's original tribe is unknown, but she grew up in Sard, an onsard of Ayleid, where the Ayleids herded in men from across all the Neben. Cothri, Nidal, Gemma, men of Creth, though these were later known to be imported from the north. Keptu, men of Ge, who were eventually destroyed when the flower king Niligi made great sacrifice to an insect god. Al-haired, men of Ket, and others. But this was Cyrodiil, the heart of the Imperatum Celiaci, where men knew no freedom even to keep family or choice of name except in secret. And so to their alien masters all of these designations were irrelevant. Men were given over to the lifting of stones and the draining of the fields and the upkeep of temple and road, or to become art tortures for strange pleasures, as in the wailing wheels of Vindazil and the gut gardens of Circe. And flesh sculpture, which was everywhere among the slaves of the Ayleids in those days, or worse, the realms of the Fire King Hadhu, where the begetting of drugs drawn from the admixture of daedrons into living hosts let one inhale new visions of torment, and children were set aflame for nighttime tiger sport. This passage refers to the treatment of men under the Ayleid regime in ancient Cyrodiil. Many of names of tribes are recognizable. Cothri refers to the metallic-skinned Cothringi people, who survived in southeastern Cyrodiil and North Argonia until the mid-Second Era, where they were eradicated by the Nahitan flu. Medes refer to the race of men who would later be known as the Imperials, whether Colovian, Nibene, or even Breton. The men of Creth likely refers to an ancestor of the Reachmen of western Skyrim. Finally, the Keptu refer to a race of tan-skinned men who inhabited Hammerfell, long before the Red Guards as we know of. These men would fade from public record by the Second Era, likely interbreeding with the Red Guards after their voyages to Hammerfell in First Era 808. The rest of these cultures were likely entirely wiped out by the Ayleids before any more surviving evidence of their existence could be recorded. The rest of this passage speaks to the horrors experienced by men under the Ayleid regime. Horrible tortures were inflicted on them in the name of fun. like the aforementioned flesh sculptures or wailing wheels. It even speaks of mental torture of man by use of hallucinogens made from dead drums, which are microscopic particles of chaotic creatia, made with purpose from the mind of mortal or Daedric will. Overall, it was this psychotic treatment of mankind that would influence the rebel slave leaders such as Alessia, Morihaus, and Pelinal. Morihaus explains Alessia's names. Then Morihaus said to them, "In your tales you have many names for her. Al-Ish given to her in awe, that when translated sounds like a redundancy. The high, from which come the more familiar corruptions. Al-Ishot, Esha, Alessia. You knew her as Paravant, given to her when crowned first of its kind, by which the gods meant a mortal worthy of the majesty that is killing, questing, healing, which is also Paraval, Pivesh, Perethu, Perith. And in my case, for it is what I called her when we were lovers, Paravania. Though she is gone to me, she remains bathed in stars, First Empress, Lady of Heaven, Queenat, Cyrodiil. And they considered themselves full answered and departed." This passage explains the various names the Saint Alessia was known by in her time. Alessia, as well as Alesthenisha, are corruptions of her title of Al-Ish, meaning the highest of highs, or Queen of Queens. Another of her titles, Paravant, would seemingly be given to her by Akatosh itself, meaning the first human worthy of being the monarch. The corruptions of this name are listed, as well as Morihaus, the author and lover to Saint Alessia, and his personal nickname of Paravania. He explains that although Alessia has departed from the mortal world, she will live forever in the heavens as the Queen of Cyrodiil. This entire book is an amazing first-hand account of some of the events of the First Era and the Alessian Revolt. Supposedly written by Morihaus himself, it remains one of the preeminent sources regarding the events of this time, along with the stories of the songs of Pelinal and the trials of Saint Alessia, which I will be analyzing and reading for you soon. Thank you for spending your time here, and have a good night.